The desert was alive with fire. Mortars shook the ground. Rifles cracked through the dust, and soldiers shouted over the chaos. Amid the storm, one woman dropped flat against the rubble, a battered rifle pressed to her shoulder. The weapon was jammed, the sights bent, the target impossibly far. Every variable screamed failure, and yet her breathing slowed, her fingers settled, and time itself seemed to hold its breath. When the shot finally came, it didn't just change the battle. It revealed a truth no one in Camp Resolute was ready to face. A truth buried for years, waiting for the right moment to rise again. Before we dive into this story, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Welcome to Grateful Stories, where tales of compassion and kindness are told. Let's uncover what really happened. Under the scorching Kandahar sun, Camp Resolute lay silent, a lonely outpost of sandbags and concrete. Only 60 soldiers manned its walls, their lives bound by routine and radio checks. For months, nothing but dust storms and monotony. Among them was Nora Caldwell. She typed reports faster than anyone, kept records neat, answered calls with a quiet yes, sir. To most, she was invisible, another paper pusher in a uniform. Captain Grant Mercer made sure no one forgot it. He had the booming voice and the broad shoulders of a recruiting poster. In front of the unit, he liked to throw casual barbs that cut deep. Administrative baggage. He called her in one briefing. She's here because the regs say we need a clerk, not because we need her. The laughter that followed was louder than the generator outside. Private Ethan Cole noticed details the others didn't. She carried herself differently, balanced, alert. But at 19, he lacked the courage to speak what he suspected. Then the alarms shattered the desert air. At 1400 hours, klaxons screamed, red lights flashing across the compound. Dust rose in the distance like a storm made of men. Scouts confirmed the worst. 180 fighters were moving fast, converging from two ridgelines. This wasn't a probing raid, it was an attempt to wipe them out. Mortars struck first, cratering the perimeter. Shrapnel tore through bunkers as soldiers scrambled to firing positions. The camp's thin defenses groaned under the impact. Mercer barked into his radio, demanding support. The reply was brutal air cover was 20 minutes out. 20 minutes they might not have. An RPG slammed into a tower, raining concrete fragments. Ethan ducked low, coughing in the choking dust. Beside him, Mercer turned to Nora with a cruel grin. He shoved an M4 into her chest. The weapon was fouled, its last jam unresolved. Here, secretary, try not to point it at yourself, he mocked. The expectation was clear. She would panic, freeze, and prove his words right. But her hands told a different story. She dropped behind cover, inspected the rifle in seconds. Her fingers worked the selector, eased the bolt, checked the chamber. Movements fast, precise, almost rehearsed. Ethan blinked hard, uncertain he'd seen it right. It wasn't luck, it was discipline. Something no filing clerk should know. Another blast shook the ground. Closer this time. Screams cut through the radio. Reports of breaches at the eastern wall. Mercer shouted for more ammo, his voice raw with strain. Nora didn't rush for cover. She tilted her head, listening beneath the roar. Her eyes narrowed toward the northeast ridge. The sound came again sharp, deliberate, with a delayed echo. It wasn't random fire. It was the crack of a Dragunov rifle, hunting. Her gaze locked on the outcrop beyond the wire. She measured the rhythm, counted the seconds between report and impact. 760 meters, her lips barely moved as she marked it. Ethan, crouched nearby, caught the whisper. What did you say? He asked, voice trembling. She didn't look at him, only murmured, sniper, northeast ridge. She handed him an instruction with calm authority. Tell Mercer to move second squad south, 20 meters. If not, they'll be caught in the next volley. Ethan sprinted through the haze, desperate to be heard. Mercer dismissed it with a wave, too busy screaming into the radio. The warning evaporated in the noise. Then the Dragunov spoke again. A soldier spun and collapsed, blood spreading across the dust. Second squad scattered in confusion. Ethan stopped dead. Realization hitting like a blow. Nora had seen it before it happened. The clerk had been right, down to the step. Back at the supply bunker, Nora reloaded her vest. Magazines aligned with practice touch. Medical kits slotted tight. Every action quiet, deliberate, efficient. Outside, chaos thickened. The attackers pressed harder, their voices rising in waves. The camp shuddered under the strain. But amid the dust and fire, Nora Caldwell's composure didn't falter. She wasn't watching with fear. She was calculating, already preparing for what came next. And though no one realized it yet, the secretary they dismissed had just become the line between survival and annihilation. Bullets chewed at the sandbags as Ethan Cole stumbled into the supply bunker behind Nora Caldwell. She was already at work, moving with a calmness that clashed with the chaos outside. Her hands sorted ammunition by touch. Each magazine snapped into place with mechanical certainty. Ethan froze, watching. No admin sergeant packed gear like this, tourniquets looped for one-hand use, gauze sealed and marked, spare mags stacked in quick-draw sequence. It was the vest of someone who'd built it under fire, not in the safety of a desk. He noticed something else. On her wrist, hidden under dirt and sweat, was a matte black watch unlike any he'd seen. Tiny readouts displayed pressure, wind direction, even altitude shifts in real time. His pulse kicked faster. That wasn't standard issue for clerks, not even for infantry. That was gear whispered about in stories of units that didn't officially exist. The camp's radio crackled in warning. East wall breach hostiles inside automatic fire thundered so close the walls trembled. Nora slid the last mag into place, then drew a blade from her vest. Its edge gleamed even in the haze of dust. She stepped back into the open as fighters poured through the shattered wire. One charged directly at Ethan. AK raised. He froze. Finger locked on the trigger, panic swallowing his training. Nora moved first. The knife flashed once, fast and silent. The fighter collapsed at Ethan's feet, throat spilling into the sand. She shoved him down behind cover and grabbed his rifle in the same motion. Controlled bursts leapt from the muzzle. 3 attackers dropped before they realized who was shooting. Her stance was rooted, recoil absorbed like she'd done it 1,000 times. Ethan's stomach churned. This wasn't luck or desperation. This was muscle memory. From across the compound, Mercer's roar carried through the smoke. Caldwell stopped playing soldier. His voice cracked with anger, but she didn't so much as glance his way. Her eyes were fixed beyond the battlefield. Through dust and muzzle flashes, she picked out a figure on the ridge. A man with a radio on his back, calm among the frenzy. He wasn't firing. He was pointing, gesturing, shifting squads with the ease of practiced command. The attack moved like a single organism under his control. "That's him," Nora muttered under her breath. "The conductor of the chaos. Cut him out, and the entire symphony would collapse." A mortar landed close, rattling every bone in Ethan's body. Nora pulled him upright, dragging him across the yard toward a new position. Her movements never faltered, never wasted. Mercer stormed into their path, face red, dust streaking his uniform. "You think you're special?" he snarled. "You think you can do better than the rest of us?" He tore his own rifle free and shoved it into her chest. "Here, try mine. Maybe you'll understand the difference between a toy and a weapon." His grin was sharp with contempt. Nora caught it instantly, felt the resistance in the bolt. A double feed jam, casing stuck hard in the chamber, improperly cleared, dangerously unstable. Mercer crossed his arms, waiting for her to fumble. Ethan held his breath, eyes locked on Nora's hands. She didn't hesitate. The mag dropped, bolt yanked, parts stripped. 9 seconds later, she slammed the forward assist forward with a decisive snap. The weapon was whole again, ready to fire. Ethan's jaw went slack. No hesitation, no wasted movement. It was like watching a craftsman with their tool, except the craft was survival. Gunfire ripped along the barricades as the enemy surged closer. Mercer opened his mouth to bark another insult but faltered. For the first time, his confidence cracked. Nora slid prone behind shattered concrete, rifle snug against her shoulder. Her breathing slowed, her gaze steady through smoke and distance. Her sights aligned on the man with the radio. Ethan dropped beside her, chest tight, trying to understand. "You can't," he whispered. "That's 760 meters." She didn't reply. The world narrowed to target, wind, trajectory, all else the shouting, the explosions. Even Mercer faded into background noise. Mercer lunged forward, intent on yanking the weapon from her hands. "You'll give away our position," he spat, fury shaking his voice. But Nora spoke first. Her words were calm, but they cut like steel. "Captain, step aside." The authority in her tone froze him in place. Ethan stared at her in awe, realizing the truth he'd tried to ignore. This wasn't a secretary lying in the dirt. This was something else entirely, something none of them had been prepared to see. And on that ridge, the commander still gestured, unaware that every second of his life now balanced on Nora Caldwell's trigger finger. The battlefield roared like a living storm, but Nora Caldwell's world narrowed to silence. Her cheek pressed into the stock, finger curved against the trigger. The ruined M4 in her hands fought against her, its bent sight post mocking her aim. Heat shimmer warped the air between her and the target. 760 meters of desert stretched like a mirage. The commander on the ridge gestured calmly, moving fighters like pawns across a board. She calculated drift, drop, and win in her head. Every heartbeat was a metronome she could not afford to miss. The rifle wasn't suited for this shot, but she was. Behind her, Captain Mercer spat into the dirt. "Suicidal," he sneered. No one could land that shot. Ethan Cole crouched close, unable to look away. As her vest shifted, he saw the scar etched deep into her shoulder, a mark shaped like a starburst, carved by years of rifles pressed in the same place. His throat went dry. This wasn't the mark of someone who lived behind a desk. It was the signature of a career forged in recoil. Nora exhaled slowly, steadying her body. She found the stillness between breath, the place where time stretched thin. Her sight steadied over the commander's chest. Then nothing. The trigger broke without fire. Another jam. The window began to close. Guards tightened around the commander, ready to pull him away. Seconds left, maybe less. Nora's hands moved without thought. Tap. Rack. Bang. The drill executed with violent precision in under 2 seconds. The bolt slammed forward, chamber cleared. She found her sight picture again, her finger already pressing. This time, the rifle answered. The sound was swallowed by the chaos, but Ethan felt it vibrate through the ground. Dust leapt from the ridge line, and then the commander's head snapped back. He crumpled, a marionette with its strings cut. For a heartbeat, the fight raged unchanged. Then the ripple tore through the enemy ranks. Orders died in throats. Movements faltered. Panic set in. Attackers who, moments ago, fought with precision now scattered. Some broke into retreat. Others fired wildly, confusion spreading like fire. The assault was unraveling before their eyes. Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came. His mind struggled to comprehend what he'd just witnessed. "That's impossible," he whispered at last. Around them, soldiers pointed toward the ridge. Phones appeared in shaking hands, recording proof of what no one would believe. Their secretary had just made a shot no sniper should have survived. Mercer stumbled backward, binoculars raised with trembling fingers. Through the glass, he saw militants dragging their fallen commander. His own certainty cracked wide open. "That's impossible," he muttered again, voice hollow. The word echoed his earlier sneer, now stripped of all pride. Nothing in his training had prepared him for this. Then came a new sound, deep and thunderous, the heavy thump of rotor blades slicing the air. Everyone turned skyward. 2 UH-60s appeared, sleek and black. no insignia on their fuselages. They flew low, precise, door guns spitting fire into the retreating enemy. Their presence was unmistakable special operations aircraft. They flared hard above the camp, ropes uncoiling from their sides. Figures slid down fast, hitting the ground in practiced silence. Black-clad operators fanned out, moving with lethal efficiency. Delta Force. Their arrival shifted the battlefield in seconds. Within moments, they were reinforcing positions, cutting down fighters still inside the wire. One operator paused mid-movement, a master sergeant, hair streaked gray beneath his helmet. His eyes found Nora across the chaos. Even through tinted lenses, recognition burned. He froze, disbelieving, then pulled his glasses down. "No way," he whispered. "Ghost." The name cut through the noise like a gunshot. Ethan's head whipped toward Nora, confusion mixing with awe. Mercer's face drained, his authority collapsing under the revelation. The word spread quietly, soldiers repeating it under their breath. Ghost, a name out of rumor, a legend thought dead 4 years ago, a sniper who disappeared after Iron Anvil. Nora remained still, expression unreadable. Her silence only deepened the mystery, her hands steady on the rifle. But the truth was already loose. A third helicopter arrived moments later, this one larger, bristling with antennas and arrays. It landed with authority near the command post. From its cabin stepped a woman in full-dress uniform, stars shining on her shoulders. Major General Eleanor Briggs cut across the battlefield, flanked by her security. Her stride was purposeful, unshaken by carnage. The defenders snapped to attention instinctively, even in the dust and wreckage. Colonel Keating saluted, voice taut with surprise, but Briggs's focus was fixed on one person. She stopped before Nora, studying her in silence. For a moment, the camp held its breath. The desert wind carried nothing but the distant retreat of the enemy. Then Briggs spoke. "Master Sergeant Caldwell," she said evenly. "Or should I still call you Ghost?" The weight of the name settled heavy across the camp. Every soldier nearby stiffened, eyes darting toward Nora. Mercer's lips parted in disbelief, but no sound emerged. Ethan swallowed hard, realization hitting him in full. The quiet sergeant who filed papers wasn't just capable, she was a legend. And she had been hiding in plain sight all along. Nora's mask faltered for the first time. Her eyes flicked to the ground, a shadow of grief crossing her face. But she didn't deny it. The truth was out. Ghost wasn't a myth, and she wasn't gone. She was standing in Camp Resolute, rifle still warm in her hands. General Eleanor Briggs stood firm, dust swirling around her boots, the weight of silence pressing on every soldier present. She held the black folder tight, its surface marked with deep crimson stamps. When she passed it to Nora Caldwell, the battlefield seemed to pause. Nora flipped it open with steady fingers. Inside were satellite photos, intercepted radio chatter, and a name repeated across the pages. Omar Darvani. Briggs' voice cut like glass. He orchestrated Iron Anvil. He set the trap that killed Stevens. He's the reason the world believed you were dead. Each word landed like a blow Nora couldn't dodge. She stared at the documents, throat dry. Darvani wasn't some desert phantom. He had been trained at an American base decades earlier. He knew every move, every tactic, every weakness taught in UARs, classrooms. The realization burned. This wasn't chance. Every strike since Iron Anvil had been calculated with insider precision. Nora's voice dropped low. "I buried Ghost with Stevens that night. I swore she wouldn't return." Her grip on the folder tightened, pages bending under her fingers. Briggs leaned closer, eyes sharp. "You can bury names. You can hide behind paperwork. But when lives depended on it, Ghost stepped out. You proved today she's still alive." Her tone left no room for argument. The camp around them remained hushed, soldiers pretending not to listen. Even Mercer stood frozen, helmet tucked awkwardly under his arm. Finally, he stepped forward. His voice cracked, stripped of arrogance. I called you deadweight. I mocked you. I didn't see who you were. His gaze faltered. You saved us all. Nora turned, eyes steady on him. You couldn't have known, she said, voice level. Warriors don't advertise, Captain. They just serve. Mercer's lips trembled, but no answer came. Ethan Cole, still clutching his rifle, looked at her with awe and something like pride. The young soldier had seen the truth with his own eyes. Briggs reached into her pocket once more. This time, she produced a chain of dog tags dulled by years of storage. She placed them in Nora's hand without a word. The metal was cold, heavy with memory. Stamped across the steel, Master Sergeant Nora L. Caldwell, Task Force Sentinel. Nora's jaw tightened as she slipped them around her neck. Engines roared to life nearby. Delta operators packed gear onto the waiting Black Hawks. Rotor wash whipped the sand into spirals. The soldiers of Camp Resolute lined the yard. Some saluted instinctively. Others stood frozen, eyes locked on Nora. The woman they had dismissed as a secretary now wore the weight of truth. She climbed aboard with the operators, moving like she belonged among them. Ethan gave her one last nod, small but sure. Mercer stayed back, silent, the shame written across his face. The helicopter lifted, sand tearing across the camp in violent gusts. Nora leaned to the open door, staring out over the battlefield. The ridge where the commander had fallen glowed faintly in the fading light. But far beyond the camp, hidden among rocks, another figure watched through binoculars. The glass caught the sunset, reflecting cold determination. His voice crackled over a radio. Ghost is alive, he said softly. Prepare the hunt. The words vanished into static, carried into the desert night. Nora felt it in her bones, the weight of eyes unseen. Her hand closed around the rifle resting on her knees. Every instinct screamed that this fight was not over. She turned her gaze to the horizon, where the mountains loomed dark. Stephen's memory burned there, sharper than the scar on her shoulder. Darvani's name pulsed in her mind like a target already marked. Briggs leaned across the cabin, her voice low against the thunder of rotors. Operation Silent Storm begins now. You're the only one who's faced him and lived. Her stare carried the force of an order and a plea. Nora didn't speak right away. She looked down at the dog tags pressed cold against her chest. The weight was both a chain and a key. Finally, she answered. Then it's not just a mission. Her voice was steel. It's personal. The helicopter banked hard north, carrying her into shadowed skies. Below, the desert faded into silence, but the war had only shifted shape. Omar Darvani still lived, and he knew Ghost was back. Nora narrowed her eyes, the wind slamming through the cabin door. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was hunting. Every soldier below would remember the day differently, but they all carried one truth forward. The Ghost had risen again, and this time, the hunt belonged to her.